So Black Mirror, I think it's had some misses here or there, but on the whole, I think it's been brilliant. So I was really excited for this season, and I gotta say it was a letdown. There were 2 episodes that I thought were strong. I'm gonna make separate reviews analyzing those episodes more in depth. In this review, I'm gonna talk about the episodes I didn't really like and why I thought the season as a whole was disappointing. So I'll start with episode 2, because episode 1 I thought was pretty good. So episode 2, initially, I thought I was going to really like it because I liked the technology. One, I thought it was believable that parents who are overprotective would want something like this, and there would be a demand for it in the near future. Of course, parents would want to monitor their kids' vitamin levels so they can buy them the right supplements. And it's also an example of where Black Mirror is at its best, where it takes a technology that is something that's already kind of happening in society now, and it's just the technology makes it so literal that for the first time we're able to look at something we're already currently doing and being like, wow, that's actually kind of ridiculous what we're doing. So you could show a helicopter parent this episode and they would say, yeah, look how ridiculous it is, how the kid's looking at a violent scene and all the violence is blurred out. That's ridiculous. You can't censor reality like that. But you say, well, that's what you're doing already when you only let your kids go to certain schools, hang out with certain friends, watch certain things. You're already trying to selectively make their reality round off all the sharp corners and give them this idealized version of reality. So why is it so ridiculous when it's a technology that's doing it, but when you already do it with non-technology means, it's normal? So we have a technology that I could see people demanding in the near future and that effectively satirizes what people are already currently doing. So it's great. But then I feel the episode just didn't go anywhere with it. We get some creepy moments when the mother's watching the daughter have sex. It's very creepy and it's kind of the extreme point of this helicopter overprotective, unhealthy attachment parenting. But as far as making a lot of insightful points and critiques, I felt like the episode just spun its wheels and was pretty weak overall. Episode 3 was so weak on the sci-fi aspect, it was really just showing the extreme lengths someone will go to after they've committed a murder to then cover it up and then cover up the cover-up, and the horrible depths someone will go to maintain their picture-perfect life, which it's been done to death. I don't want to see it in this groundbreaking sci-fi show. And the whole idea is, if your memories are able to be mined against your will, that creates an even bigger incentive for people who murder to kill the witnesses as well. But there's already that incentive to murder witnesses. So yeah, this increases it somewhat, but I don't think it fundamentally changes the decision calculus in a real way. So it's just kind of exacerbating what already exists, and it's very weak. But I will say, even though I didn't think it was groundbreaking sci-fi, it was still a very creepy and unsettling episode, which is something, I don't know if there's any show that does it better than Black Mirror. And I will say, we did get different portrayals of evil in the different episodes, which was good. In the first episode, you see him just getting shit on and feeling underappreciated and undervalued, and that leads to him doing these monstrous things. Episode 2, the evil's kind of being scared to lose something and loving something so much, you're scared of anything bad happening to it. And a similar in episode 3, she's scared to lose her perfect life, and she's so scared to lose her life, she'll do almost any horrible thing to keep what she has. Episode 4 I thought was strong, so I'll move to episode 5. We have an apocalyptic world where these thieves, they steal something, and then there's this killer robot hunting them. Now, I did think it was interesting how creepy and unsettling the robot was with such a simple design. I liked that. I liked how it reminded me of a potential horrible future world where we have these corporations with all the wealth and these scavengers, out of desperation, they break in and then they're hunted by these futuristic robots, even though their surroundings are so not futuristic. So it wasn't a terrible episode, but again, just kind of a weak episode. And when she's at the top of the tree and the robot's at the bottom, just patiently waiting for her, and you know it would wait there forever, it is creepy, and it's like the Terminator. You can't reason with it. It's just this hyper-rational killing machine, and I get it. At the end, when they steal, or when it's revealed what they stole, and it's a teddy bear, I guess it's saying, you know, the robot is just hyper-rational and ruthless, and humans are more irrational, and they're willing to sacrifice themselves for a teddy bear. And I guess in a war between those two forces, who's going to win, the irrational or the rational? I don't know. And then the last episode, episode 6, we have this device that lets you feel what someone else feels. So when they use it for sex and someone's able to experience both male orgasms and female orgasms, that's interesting because I think it's something certain guys would say, yeah, that would be cool to get the whole spectrum of pleasure. Other guys would be like, you want to feel what a woman feels during sex? Like, that's gay. You're a gay person. So I think it's interesting where you'd have that healthy debate. I think different people with different sexualities are going to respond differently to that. But the central storyline where he's a doctor, so he uses this device to diagnose, one, it doesn't make sense because lupus doesn't have this distinct feeling that's different than cancer, that's different than any other disease. That's not how diseases work. Obviously, different people are going to have different feelings and reactions based on their own personal psychology. So it just didn't really make sense that this would be this master diagnostic tool. But fine, that's not a big issue. The bigger issue is he uses this and he becomes addicted to it, and then he pushes it too far and he dies. And then when he comes back from the dead, suddenly it's reversed, where suddenly he wants to feel pain. Why does coming back from the dead make him a masochist? There's no reason. There's no reason to assume that. And then he pushes it further and further, and eventually he needs more and more, and I guess he comes full circle from this healer to a sadist inflicting pain on others. And it's just, I don't understand what point they're trying to make. It doesn't really make sense. Like, are they saying healers take on the suffering of the world and eventually they become addicted to that feeling of pain and they need to push themselves further and further and get more and more pain, so eventually they start causing pain in others and go full circle from healers to sadists? That's just not a good point. And then the next story where you had the consciousness inside the guy's head, it was just too jokey and sitcom-y. It didn't make sense scientifically. Why would you have the ability to save consciousnesses and put them in different things, but you would put them in a person? That would be easier than putting it in like a robot cyborg body. It just didn't make sense that we'd be so advanced that we could transplant consciousnesses, and we'd be advanced enough to put a consciousness inside someone else's brain, but we couldn't put it inside a robot or some other more suitable device. And then when they put it into the monkey, look, I liked how they started to talk about how the UN made these conventions on what is acceptable to put a consciousness into, and there's certain, requirements for what you're able to put a consciousness into for it not to be inhumane. I like that. That was where it was at its strongest. And then for the crux of the episode, they come back to this idea of creating a digital copy of yourself that's going to be just like you, but immortal and potentially be in eternal torment. And we've already seen this in episode 1 of this season. We've already seen this in the Christmas episode of this show, just handled better. So I don't know why they keep going back to this when it's not something that's just on the horizon. There's no evidence that this can even happen. We can't even create artificial intelligence, let alone create artificial intelligence that's just like humanity, let alone create artificial intelligence that's a complete copy of a current person that exists now. Like, we're like 3 steps away from being close to anything like this. So for the show to keep going back to this as if it's some pressing societal concern, I don't understand it. There's so many other sci-fi things they can explore. Why do they keep going back to this? And not to mention in episode 4, they did the digital copies idea again. But in that episode, it was completely realistic that a dating company, to get better results for their members, would create these digital copies and they would live kind of normal lives. That made sense. For a society to have some loner just creating these digital copies for sadistic reasons and torturing them, and then have people come in and just sadistically enjoy torturing and inflicting pain, that's a weird fringe thing that would exist underground. That's not a normal mainstream thing that would be ever accepted in society. And what I loved about the episode of Black Mirror where that criminal, she was amnesia every day and she went through this torture, is you saw how the people who were doing it, they saw themselves as just, and they saw it as vengeance and punishment for the horrible crime that she committed. And that's what made the episode so unsettling, was that you really could see how a majority of people believing that they were justice and eye for an eye could inflict such a horrible torture. I don't buy that there's this massive majority of people out there that are just evil and sadistic and just want to torture people for the sake of torturing people. So that's what separated the 2 episodes for me. They both had this kind of eternal torment, but one I saw real human motivations of vengeance and justice. Here I just saw cartoonish sadism that I don't think exists on this widespread scale. I did like how the white guy had his consciousness put into a black guy, so all the racism and bigotry and hatred that he'd fostered throughout his life was now being directed at him. It's this whole idea of creating your own hell or creating a weapon that's then turned on you. We saw this in episode 1. I like that part of it. I don't think the 3 stories that I talked about went well together at all. You didn't see this theme running through. They just felt kind of jumbled together. So all in all, this episode really made me worry for the future of Black Mirror, that they've kind of run out of new interesting concepts, and what they're going to do going forward is just take these same concepts they've already covered in unique, fresh ways and just rehash them and throw on whatever current trendy buzzwords exist. Like in this episode, the guy talks about fake news and virtue signaling while talking about this digital concepts idea. And it's just, that's not fresh content, just using the same ideas and throwing a few buzzwords at it. It's just lazy, and I'm worried about Black Mirror going forward. I hope next season will be better, but I'm worried about it. If you like my review, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, you can click my face at the end of the video to subscribe. If you leave a comment, let me know why I'm totally wrong and this was the greatest season of Black Mirror ever. Leave a comment, and I'll be sure to read it and reply.